We've seen how the dependence on land makes the climate critical to development. The semi-arid conditions and the worsening situation caused by global warming makes this even more difficult. So how can farmers overcome the obstacles to development? Farmers can lessen the impact of the climate through soil and water conservation, terracing land, building dams, and planting trees. These three initiatives create a virtuous circle in the battle to conserve soil and water. The terracing of the land helps to keep more soil and water in the farms. Sand dams keep water in the seasonal valleys for people, animals, and nurseries. Dams enable tree nurseries to be set up so that more soil and water can be conserved by planting trees in farms. The first step is the terracing of land to create flat fields so that water and soil is conserved. Terracing can reduce the amount of water running off the land from 45% to just 5%, a remarkable increase in the water kept in the farms. Terracing also reduces soil losses by an amazing 97%. Terracing alone greatly increases the amount of food farmers can produce. In drylands, though, this is hard work. Farmers work together in a self-help group to help each other to terrace their land. This makes it easier, as it would take one person a full day to dig just 10 meters.
Last season, we learned a lot because some few people who had terraces in their chambers in the area, we saw them harvesting. And that is why we're putting a lot of effort in every member's chamber to take terraces so that we can harvest. And we are sure if we get the same rains that we get most of the seasons, we shall harvest. If we have terraces in every chamber.
Having increased the amount of soil and water retained in the farms, the second initiative is to conserve more water in the seasonal riverbeds. This is done with sand dams, ingenious structures with no visible water. A sand dam isn't made of sand, it actually retains sand behind a concrete wall built across a seasonal riverbed during the dry season. They're designed with spillways and wings to keep the river flowing as before. The rains are heavy and fast, so it needs to be strong. The dam captures the water when it rains, going back upstream up to 1 kilometre. However, there is soil suspended in the water. The sand in the soil sinks, and the lighter silt is taken downstream by the overflowing water. The wet sand builds up behind the dam, filling it completely after 1 to 3 seasons. So one thing's been puzzling me. When I think of a dam, I think of water. But where is all this water? Thankfully, Joshua's here to answer that question for me. Joshua, I know this is a sand dam, but where on earth's the water?
We are standing on water, and this sand, where we are now, we are standing on water. I say it is 60% sand and 40% water.
We've just walked for about 5 minutes over all of this sand that's been collected behind this dam. Now, it's estimated that 10 million litres of water is captured beneath this sand. That means that little ones like Milika here have plenty of water nearby, and it's clean. The water is then collected traditionally by scooping a hole in the sand. Clean water that saves up to 12 hours a day for mostly women and children. This water is cleaner too because it's protected under the sand from insects and animals.
Before excellent, we were using 20 kilometers from here to Hadi River.
20
kilometers from here to Hadi River. Once you go to fetch water there, you have to stay for the whole day or 2 days before you get water, because you find jerrycans are queued, put in a queue for fetching water. Now we can also dig water from the sand dam now.
Trees are the third initiative in the effort to conserve water and soil. The water from the dams also enable tree nurseries to be set up in the dry season so that they're ready to plant when the rain comes, greatly increasing their chances of survival. Trees help retain water in the farm. They act as a windbreak, and the roots hold the soil together. Nitrogen-fixing trees also help to fertilise the soil, all of which increase crop yields.
There are some of the trees that we plant or to be planted in the shamba, and those trees can help us to maintain the moisture in the soil, because as the tree grows, the roots are growing, and these roots of most of the trees, their roots help to lighten the soil. The soil breathes, and these trees, when they grow up, they still, the leaves, they fall down. Those leaves, they are still fertilizers. You can use them.
But trees do much, much more. When the trees grow, farmers can take branches for fuel. Wood provides 95% of energy needs in rural Kenya. Wood is also used for building materials, saving them having to use valuable cash. Farmers also grow trees that yield delicious fruit to eat or sell, like papaya, mangoes, bananas, or passion fruit, which kids love. The result of all this hard work is a marked improvement in the environment. But hey, don't just take my word for it.
The microclimate here has changed a great deal, and it has changed because of the following reasons. First of all, trees have been planted, and normally this area would have acacia and grass. But the community here over the last 25 years have planted lots of trees. What this has meant is that there's more precipitation because of the arresting the clouds. There's much more dew now here, and also the birds and the insects and the wind are bringing more seed here. So what is happening here is that over the last 25 years, this climatic zone has shifted from fairly semi-arid zone 5 geographically to zone 3. Rainwater harvesting and planting trees, if it were to be spread across the board, would achieve a great deal in contributing to the reversal of global warming.
So, how does this address the priorities of communities we looked at earlier? Water supply is improved enormously with sand dams. Families save enough time to work more on their farms or to go to school. The terracing and trees already increase food production, and with all the extra time saved by having local water and fuel wood, farmers can concentrate on developing their farms to increase food production even more. One way of doing this is zero grazing, which simply means feeding and watering animals in a pen.
When I keep my animals in my cow shed, I just do a circle thing. All the manure comes to my shamba, and all the shamba stuffs goes back to my animals. So it's one way of rotating whatever I have. So many people in the last few years or many years were told not to intercrop by the government people. And I do this against the government will. And the funny thing is that when they come to see my shamba, they always get surprised of what I'm doing, because my yield seems to be more better than the people who doesn't intercrop.
Excellent developments also enable farmers to grow a wider range of traditional food crops. Seeds are provided for demonstration plots, which are tended by each community group, enabling them to produce seeds to distribute amongst the farmers. Crops like sorghum, pearl millet, finger millet, pigeon peas and cowpeas reduce the risk of failed harvests, particularly as they are species more suited to drier climates. With all this extra production, farmers can save some seeds in seed banks. Drought, flooding or variable rains can all cause crops to fail. But if this is the case, farmers can take seeds to plant as long as they promise to return double the seeds when they harvest. This secure source of seeds protects against crop failures and lack of cash to buy seeds, creating food security. Having achieved improvements in their first two priorities of water and food, farmers are able to focus on incomes for school fees and ensuring better health for their families. Farmers who are able to grow vegetables and trees can improve nutrition and incomes. The same goes for milk from improved goats and honey from bees. The clean water from sand dams also has a dramatic effect on health. Water from the dams allows people to grow nutritious fruit, trees and vegetables, like tomatoes and greens. This has a beneficial impact on health, as you'll know from being told to eat your greens all the time.
I had no any plan of planting anything like tomatoes, because thinking of planting tomatoes without sandam, it was a daydream. But when excellent development came and had shown the sites and we constructed that sandam, is when my mind started awakening up. First time I planted 140 plants. That one we hit around here. Community were coming to buy more of them. Next time I planted 350. But last one, that one I got something.
What did you get?
2,800 shillings, Kenyan shillings, whereby I used to take the tomatoes to school, where my child is schooling. Then it was counted as a money, because that tomato is cooked to school.
Communities in the drier, less fertile areas can only afford goats. Farmers can participate in a programme to improve their goat breeds, breeding their goats with Toggenburg goats to eventually quadruple milk yields. Others learn to keep bees, so more milk and honey are great for health and can be sold locally for an income. A child dies every 15 seconds from diseases associated with a lack of safe drinking water, inadequate sanitation and poor hygiene. 1.8 million people a year in Africa die of something as simple as diarrhea. 90% of those are children below the age of 5. Sand dams make a dramatic difference to this. The water is filtered by the sand, making it cleaner, so that cases of diarrhea have reduced by 95% in some areas. Typhoid is also reduced by sand dams because people don't need to collect water from dirty rivers. Infected mosquitoes biting humans causes malaria, the world's biggest killer. Mosquitoes breed in open water, but because water is stored below the sand in these dams, mosquitoes can't breed there.
In a Mecca suburb group, which is in a between location, it was one area where we had seen people die. And the major issue, everybody died, everybody's speculation was they had AIDS. But it was because they took dirty water from the river, which was flooded with all sorts of diseases. After making those dams, we hardly hear people dying.
So, now you've seen how farmers in Africa improve water supplies and food production, enabling them to improve the health of their families and earn incomes to pay school fees. To recap, farmers address their priorities of water, food and incomes, firstly by conserving soil and water through digging terraces, building sand dams and planting trees. The improvements gained and the time saved enable them to focus on increasing food production further to provide incomes and improve health. Right, just to check that you've been paying attention, here are a couple of questions that you should now be able to answer.